Good evening and welcome to the July 24th City Council meeting on a public forum. And so our first order of business is the public forum. The public forum is an opportunity for individuals to speak to the City Council on any city-related issues except for those items which have already been heard by a hearings official or are on tonight's agenda as a public hearing. Each person will have 3 minutes to speak. When you come to the podium, please give your name, city of residence, and for Eugene residents, your ward, if known. The timer lights indicate the time you have to speak. The red light indicates the end of 3 minutes. And our first speaker is Joe Tyndall, followed by Eliza Kaczynski.
Good evening, Joe Tyndall. Another year has flown by as our police commission has met monthly to be entertained by EPD. They have done nothing to advise the city council or city manager. They have done nothing regarding Chief Kern's top two concerns, which is homelessness and violent protest. They are still on record disrespecting the First Amendment to the Constitution. However, they will again stand before this council to proclaim their fine and diligent work. Regarding homelessness, the city is poised to spend $1 million. Nonprofits are salivating for chunks of that cash. If it is spent as inefficiently as, say, for Opportunity Village or the car camping program, we can serve maybe another 140 people. This leaves thousands more homeless on our streets and in our parks. We should celebrate St. Vincent de Paul opening a shelter for girls. You do know that 1 of every 4 homeless is a woman? What does that do to your gut? 1 out of 4 is a woman. That's an outrage worthy of a billboard campaign and a Harvard conference, both of which have occurred. But if 1 out of 4 is a woman, then 3 out of 4 are men, and no one cares. That is one reason why Donald Trump is president. Another reason Trump is president is because people like the police commission favor censoring speech. For that one reason alone, I am glad Neil Gorsuch is on the Supreme Court to maintain a 5-4 majority in favor of the First Amendment. It is politically correct, censorious, self-righteous authoritarians like our police commission that got Trump elected. And Trump will be reelected in 2020 because the violence on the streets is coming from the left. Regardless of what fake news like CNN, the New York Times, and other outlets claim, if you watch the unedited live stream video, the violence originates from the left. The right is not punching, they are punching back. If you had watched this violence grow over the past 2 years, you would know that the civil disturbance policy approved by the Police Commission is grossly inadequate. But the Commission actually studying a problem to provide the guidance their charter calls for? No, not likely. Our Police Commission is a waste of resources. Enjoy the summer break. Thank you.
Thank you. Eliza Kaczynski, followed by Tammy Roberts.
Hello, my name is Eliza Kaczynski. I live in Ward 1, and I'm a member of WeCan, the Walkable Eugene Citizens Advisory Network. We would like to thank you for your attention to the issues of housing affordability and housing choice in Eugene, and in particular, Councilor Zelenka's indication that he'd be asking for a work session regarding missing middle housing. We hope that that work session happens. As you all know, Eugene is facing a housing crisis. We simply do not have enough housing for all of Eugene's residents. Last year, there were nearly 3 times as many new households as there were new homes built. This has had a major impact on Eugene residents of all income levels, from those with no shelter at all to those struggling to make rent, those looking for their first home to purchase, and those who have stable housing. This is a complex issue with many factors. Just making more land available to build on won't ensure that the new housing is affordable for many Eugene residents, nor will it address the question of transportation and infrastructure costs, nor does it address the question of sustainability, or it does not address the question of choice, the desire of many Eugene residents, including myself, for housing choices that are somewhere between detached single-family homes with yards and large apartment complexes. After a guest's viewpoint about missing middle housing by WeCan members was published in the Register Guard, we received multiple emails from Eugene homeowners who wanted to provide housing for their neighbors and families. They wanted to build accessory dwelling units. but were finding the process difficult to navigate, burdened with excessive fees that made it impossible for the project to pencil out, or unreasonable code restrictions. These roadblocks are not just affecting those who want to build granny flats or garage apartments. They're affecting the providers of subsidized or supported housing. They're affecting local builders who want to create compact and sustainable housing in their community. They're affecting even those who are happy with their current housing. If the only place where it's practical to create new housing is at the end of an unimproved road at the edge of town, those homeowners are being forced to deal with the impacts of growth that should be shared by all of us equally. Many citizens of Eugene want to address our housing crisis. We want not only to find housing options that meet our own needs, but help provide housing for others in our community. I'm looking forward to City Council's work to determine how we ensure that we are not only dependent on large developers to build on greenfield sites and agricultural land to meet our housing need, but rather we in Eugene are able to build it ourselves in a sustainable fashion in our communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Tammy Roberts, followed by Coreal Riday-White.
Hi, I'm Tammy Roberts. I'm a Eugene citizen. Mike Clark is my counselor. I don't remember which ward number that is, but I came to listen tonight to your workshop because I was interested in your exception that you were pondering for marijuana shop within 1,000 square feet of a school. And I thought it would be a short discussion because House Bill 2198 sits on Governor Brown's desk right now. And that House bill repeals municipalities' ability to create ordinances that exempt that, and it provides that the OLCC will do that. Additionally, I didn't know the location of where this was proposed, and I did a little quick Google search back there. The property at 660 Monroe, according to Google Maps, if I drive there, is 520 feet from New Road School. If you do one of those little dots that show an aerial view, it's about 420. You can't do it within 500 feet. So that's sort of just what I wanted to tell you. Thanks.
Thank you. Coreal Riday-White, followed by Ray McCauley.
Good evening, councilors, mayor. My name is Coreal Riday-White. I'm community engagement manager for our Children's Trust, and it's in that capacity I come here today with an update around the federal case, Juliana versus United States. As you guys might remember, 21 youth plaintiffs have sued the Trump administration for infringing on their constitutional and public trust duty rights. There's been a trial date set for February 5th, 2018, about a block over there at the federal courthouse. I want to let city and residents know that there's going to be hundreds, if not thousands of people coming in here, lots of media. It's going to be a big event. We want to work with everyone to make it as enjoyable and memorable as possible because the world will be watching it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ray McCauley, followed by Paul Biondi.
Hello, my name's Ray McCauley. I'm a citizen of Eugene. I live at 1740 West Broadway. And I'm here to talk about a benefit that's going on for MEMA, Musicians Emergency Medical Association at Lavelle Winery on July 30th. It's a benefit to raise money to help musicians who need help if they get sick. A lot of musicians don't have a lot of money. And if they fall down and break a bone or they wind up in the hospital like what happened to me and Paul Biondi also, it provides money directly for bills. No money goes directly to the person that's affected. It goes straight to their landlord or eWeb, or it helps get them out of the hole. Because everybody knows, or most people, if they're out of work for 3 months, that's when the other shoe drops because you're behind on your rent. You're behind on your eWeb bill, you're behind on your credit cards, and you start getting the phone calls. MEMA helps with that immensely. They paid $1,000 toward my rent. I was in the hospital for a week in intensive care with blood clots in my lungs, and it effectively ended my working career. Social Security retired me since I was so close to retirement age. But MEMA helped me out a lot. That $1,000 kept me from getting those phone calls that everybody dreads. I mean, nobody wants that. So we would like to try and get some interest going for this day, July 30th at Lavelle Wineries, to help put some money in the bank to help a few other people that might get sick or break a bone, or the money just goes to help musicians. That's all it's for. And they don't give any actual money to the person that's hurt. It goes straight to the people that they owe money to. And it's a lifesaver. It really is. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul Biondi, followed by Sue Cox.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for your service that you do for the city. I don't know how you guys don't end up fighting each other every time, and not only with each other, but also just with folks that come in here and ask a lot and don't know how to give themselves. So thank you for your time and your service. I live off of Henderson, 1625 Henderson Avenue, and I think that's Ward 3. And yeah, okay. And and Paul Biondi, and Paulbiondi. And thank you for your time, first of all. We started this thing, it's going on 10 years, to help people in the music industry. Now, Eugene and Lane County has the distinction that this is the only organization like it in the whole United States that is for people in the industry. That means if you play guitar, if you build guitars, if you build staging, if you're a DJ, if you work at the Wow Hall, we're encompassing everybody, their significant others and family members and children. And I'm so proud to be part of the organization, and really ask you guys, whenever you can, maybe think about us, to be able to pass on information to other people that we're not taking anything from the city. We don't want money from you. We want to be able to help and assist, and encompass what you're already doing, especially anything musically. MEMA would love to be involved, as well as we would like to see us be the next Memphis or the next Austin, Texas. We have the greatest talent in the world in this city. We have the Cuthbert, we have the McDonald, we have the Wow Hall, we have the Shed, and many other venues. And this is an amazing town with the musicians and performers and entertainers that are in here. And we need to protect our folks that are working hard for you. Each one of you, I'm sure, has a memory of a favorite song or a favorite moment, including music, that happened in your life. And, Betty tripping the night fantastic to a song that she loves when she was a teenager. And so I know you all have your favorites, and musicians and people in the industry provide that for you. So I'm hoping that some of you can show up on Sunday. And we got Ty Curtis, who's a young blues player. He's the next big Robert Craig that comes out of this area. We're really proud of him. So please come on up to the Lavelle Vineyards and be part of the solution. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Sue Cox, followed by Christiane Ochoa.
Yes, I'm Sue Cox, and I'm not from Eugene. I'm from Lowell. I'm a Lowell-life, a Lowellian, whatever. You name it. Depends on who's on our city council. So, and those of you that are laughing, no. Anyhow, I'm with the Musicians Emergency Medical Association also. And again, we are supporting, this, great cause that really has been a great support network for the local musicians. These two gentlemen are musicians. I'm not. I went to Catholic school. They cured me of that. So, anyhow, what I like to tell everybody is this has, as Paul says, it's been in place for about 10 years. And we had originally been helping people with real medical bills. Often, if they had nothing and ended up in the emergency room admitted, there's a hospital here locally that they would not let them out without making some kind of a payment, and often those without insurance at the time would come to us, and it was really successful in assisting people along the line. Again, we had the medical. Now, with the Affordable Care Act, that helped a lot, for especially to this demographics. Now with the medical situation up in the air right now, we don't know. So we're really kind of pushing to get a good reserve, because we could anticipate going back to paying direct medical bills. Besides paying for the rents and things like this, again, working with in a medical type of field, we do a lot of dental work. A musician without teeth, whistles, so that's about all they can do. And so we are working with dentists, and then we have all kinds of others. We have optometrists and chiropractors that have been great in supporting this cause. And again, as we say, we are working. We've done this is our 5th year out Lavelle's. Doug Lavelle has been wonderful at supporting us, in this type of a thing. We do have an all-day concert. It's from 3 to 10 o'clock in the evening. We start out with one of our new Eugene groups called the Bossinaire. And if anybody is of the age of Brazil 66 and Carlos Jobim, they'll love this kind of music. And we're going to play this. They'll open us for us at 3. Paul and his group, we're going to upgrade it a little bit to a little cross between the jazz and moving on for the day. And we will party late in the afternoon when it's cooler. And then we're going to go into the evening with Ty Curtis, and we will go until the sun comes up, I think, because he's very good. And he's been so kind to come through and give us his time. Again, as we work with this, that's our time frame of what's going on Sunday. We know that there's things going on in Eugene, and I think this is a good segue for the people to come through. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Christiane Ochoa, followed by Jim New.
Good evening. Excuse me. Good evening, members of the Eugene City Council and Mayor. My name is Christiane Ochoa, and I am a community health analyst and work for Lane County Public Health in the Prevention Department. The purpose of this testimony is to provide information on the public health implications of the proposed separation of retail marijuana businesses discussed at the July 19th work session. Based on the available science, the research shows that there should be at least 1,000-foot separation of retail marijuana businesses as a means of minimizing access, availability, and use by youth. There is extensive research regarding tobacco and alcohol retail density, which can be extrapolated to marijuana, and shows that having a well-developed marijuana density policy can decrease youth access to marijuana, prevent experimental marijuana smoking, decrease youth marijuana use prevalence, reduce the disproportionate health burdens experienced by certain communities, especially lower income populations and communities of color, and decrease the perception that marijuana use is risk-free. Research indicates that increased visibility of marijuana retailers allows youth to see the marijuana retailers in their everyday environment, perceive marijuana use as being common, and increases the likelihood of marijuana use. In states like Oregon, where recreational marijuana is legal, it is important to have strong zoning ordinances to control density of retail marijuana businesses in order to limit availability and exposure of youth to marijuana products and minimize dependence and addiction. The Lane County Public Health mission is to promote and protect the long-term health and well-being of individuals, families, and our community. The Lane County Public Health Prevention section focuses on areas such as alcohol, tobacco, and drug prevention, and specializes in creating, implementing, evaluating, and providing technical assistance on public health policies. Thank you for your time. Lane County Public Health is happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim New, followed by Robin Bloomgarden.
Mayor and Council, my name is Jim New. I live in Ward 7. Before the Mayor and Council take their summer break, if indeed there is such a thing, I would like to commend and thank you all for your accomplishments since last summer. Although there are too many to mention, Resolution 5171 supporting Standing Rock Sioux Tribe and 5181 opposing transportation of oil by rail through Eugene, the Mayor's commitment to support the Paris Climate Agreement by joining the city's Climate Alliance, and the adoption of an emissions reducing transportation system plan to 2030 were environmentally outstanding. Mike Clark's proposed resolution at the May 31st TSP discussion asking staff to anticipate and plan for empty parking lots, autonomous and electric vehicles, specifically 50% electrical vehicles by 2030 and 90% electrical vehicles by 2050, and for staff to assess any policy barriers or changes for council to consider. Thank you, Mike. This is an ambitious effort and we appreciate that. Also, city staff must be recognized for all their hard work in getting these items presented at a mayor and council's request. There are many future items of interest for 350 Eugene. Council's commitment to having a divestment work session in the fall, public works staff alterations requested by Alan Zelenka to the transportation system plan, and the implementation of the phases of the Climate Energy Action Plan 2.0, which starts the community becoming involved in meeting the goals of the CRO. Our Children's Trust trial resumes in February, and we hope once and for all to have a final denial of permitting for the Jordan Cove Pacific Connector Pipeline LNG project in Coos Bay. Finally, and this is our invitations, this Sunday, July 30th from 10:30 to 12, as you all knew, is the Eugene Parade. If you haven't an invite and would like to be in the parade or wish to do so, contact 350. We have entries and looking for volunteer wranglers of banners and signs. Your chance to be in a parade is right now. Meet at Monroe Park at 9:45 if you're interested in joining us. We have an entry in there. Sunday, August 6th at Amazon Park, Gears, Greater Eugene Area Riders, is having the Blackberry Bramble bicycle ride, 10 mile, 40 mile, 60, or for you ambitious council members, the 100-mile ride. That is awards you a free beer when you return and a piece of blackberry ice cream and blackberry pie and ice cream at the end of the ride. And Mike, I invite you to drive my electric car so you can consider a purchase before incentives and rebates expire. Thank you. Have a good break.
Thank you. Robin Bloomgarden, followed by Bill O'Brien.
Hello. My name is Robin Bloomgarden, and I'm a member of 350 Eugene, and I live in Councilor Pryor's area. There you are. I have 3 items. First, please stop considering a work session on citywide divestment from U.S. Bank. Instead, please make a session happen soon. Keeping our money in a local bank is a much better option for the whole community, and it does not cause us to directly support destructive corporate practices while being charged high fees to use our own money. Thank you to both Councilor Surratt and Evans for moving this forward. Thank you. And second, all of you will need to actively ensure that city staffers follow up on the recovery or the climate recovery ordinance / mayor's ad hoc committee recommendations for getting public input on the climate energy action plan once the committee's recommendations are finalized. Let us know at 350 how we can help. We, active citizens, have no direct control over the city manager and his staff, but as councilors, it is your job to oversee their work, and you are accountable to us. Lastly, I will not spend time downtown if I have to plug a meter to do it. Why not add 1 free hour on weekdays at the 2 Charnelton lots so that it's a little more convenient to get to one of those lots for 1 hour. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bill O'Brien is next, followed by Caitlin Bowman.
Hi. Hello, William O'Brien, 255 High Street. I was just thinking about people, names, and our legacy and how long we live on this earth. And so today I took a picture of Ken Kesey, and I thought a lot of people would be here talking about that statue down there and that open space area and music, whatever. It's a beautiful place under the stars, and well, I have about a minute or so, or 30 seconds. I've only talked. I knew Ken a little bit. I knew his classmate, Wally Slocum, another great man, who gave literally everything he owned to artists and whatnot. He just gave it all away, literally. He had properties. He had people living in his properties. He was a wild character. And obviously, Ken Kesey, besides the namesake of a distinguished family, farmers, yogurt, you know. I mean, he's one of the great novelists of our times, and he deserves recognition. And also, you know, his activities of exploration into human consciousness as far as literature is concerned, which is one of the, by one rights, I imagine. He certainly did that. And he did it, as a lot of us know, he did it being a guinea pig of the United States government, you know, being a test subject of LSD. And despite the pros and cons of that, there is a lot of exploration in this time period, the 60s, of, you know, what we would call coalescing of civilizations and mythologies and whatever. So he brought it all out, and it was a pleasure to have known him. And I hope that space downtown will be, you know, allocated to his family for all of us, you know, because I think his idea of consciousness was a unitary field consciousness where we're really all together in this boat. And so that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Caitlin Bowman, followed by Michael Kerrigan.
My name is Caitlin Bowman, and I'm resident of Ward 1 and a volunteer with 350 Eugene's divestment group. I would like to thank Councillor Surratt for agreeing to put forth a work session poll on divesting from U.S. Bank, and would like to thank Councillors Taylor and Evans for indicating support for that work session. I look forward to hearing that it's been scheduled. Thank you, and have a great break.
Thank you. Michael Kerrigan, followed by Lori Powell.
My name is Michael Kerrigan, a proud resident of Ward 7. Here tonight, I work for Community Alliance of Lane County, but also a volunteer with 350 Eugene. Along with Jim New, I want to applaud your accomplishments the past year and your hard work, and look forward to working with you all in the year ahead. I think we're really proud of our Children's Trust. Their landmark federal climate lawsuit is just something, an example to the world. And it's great, but we need to be doing more here. Climate change is a justice issue. I recently went up to Salem for a lobby day with the NAACP. And they were emphasizing there that climate is a justice issue. I don't know whether people have seen their report, but it's really, I read that. It's just like, and they really stress in there that communities of color and low-income communities have been the ones most impacted by climate change. And I urge that the city's climate and energy action plan really focus on dealing with this problem. So I urge us to, work with the NAACP and others, CALC and others in the year ahead to see how we can do even better and accomplish more. And I'm changing issues here into the issue about the homeless and the rest stops, because that's a justice issue as well. I'm part of the steering committee of the Nightingale Health Sanctuary, and we're also applauding city staff and the Good Samaritan Assisted Living Facility in Southeast for accepting kind of a mini rest stop. It's part of the car camping program. But the Southeast neighbors have been so receptive, so supportive. But Nightingale has staff, it has an active steering committee, which can manage a rest stop of 30 people. So the 6 people that the car camping is helping now, great. How can we change when you come back from break? Let's talk about how we can work with Steve Craddock at Good Sam with city staff to get an actual rest stop at that site. So thank you very much for letting me speak tonight.
Thank you. Next is Lori Powell, followed by Wayne Martin.
Good evening, councilors. My name is Lori Powell, and I live in Ward 1. It's been quite a year. On the local climate front, you passed the oil trains resolution. A divest from U.S. Bank ordinance was proposed. The mayor's CRO ad hoc committee commenced its work. The transportation system plan was passed with amendments to ensure an implementation plan tied to the CRO benchmarks is put in place by this time next year, and that the role of autonomous electric vehicles is given serious consideration. Thank you, Councilors Zelenka and Clark, for those additions. And as we've heard already, but it bears repeating, this historic trial of 21 youth suing the federal government for violating their constitutional right to life, liberty, and property because of human-caused climate change is set for February 5th. So much to rally around there. And yet, despite these concrete steps moving forward, attempts to ram through fossil fuel infrastructure at the regional and national level are at fever pitch. Witness the renewed effort to get the FERC to permit the Pacific Connector Jordan Cove projects in southern Oregon. And all this while the sixth mass extinction is underway. It's just beyond overwhelming, right? But as you head into your summer recess, please consider the practical concrete choices you have at your disposal for moving forward with the growing the accomplishments that have happened here locally, such as the work session on divestment, and then having a detailed implementation plan coming out of the ad hoc committee. Looking forward to seeing that. And then finally, next year, considering a ban on any new fossil fuel infrastructure in our community. And as you've seen over this last year, we're here to help in any way we can. Thank you so much and have a good break.
Thank you. Wayne Martin? Nope, signed up but not here. Okay, Linda Heil.
Hello. I'm Linda Heil. I live in Ward 2, and I also am with 350 Eugene. And I was happy to learn this week that in May, the Eugene Sustainability Commission asked the City Council to direct the city manager to provide a report of criteria for divestment from the U.S. Bank Corporation and for information on the current policy of U.S. Bank regarding its investments in oil pipelines. Using a bank that invests in fossil fuel projects is contrary to the carbon reduction goals of the City Council and to the values of the Eugene community. When the current contract is up in October of 2018, we urge the City Manager's Office to have secured a new contract for investments, daily expenditures, payroll, financing, and other banking business with a local bank that does not invest in these fossil fuel projects. Beginning the search for another bank now will allow plenty of time to negotiate a new contract. The decision to divest from companies that support and finance fossil fuel extraction and infrastructure and to reinvest in the local economy is both financially and ethically sound. We commend the Sustainability Commission and the City Council for taking this change of contract seriously, and we look to the City Manager's Office to provide the Sustainability Commission and the public with the requested information as soon as possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is Jesse Smith. Oh, and then we'll follow Jesse with Wayne Martin, who has walked in. Okay, Jesse Smith. There you go.
Hi, how you doing? I'm Jesse Smith. I'm a Eugene resident. I'm a cyclist. I care a lot about the city. I've been encountering a problem with, I guess it's a city or Eugene Police Department policy that allows police to ride their bikes on patrol in the downtown walk zone. I just don't think that this is fair, that police can do something that, as a citizen of the city, that I can be ticketed for. So I'm going to be looking for ways to get that policy changed. So hopefully I'll be working with you guys on that.
Thank you. Wayne Martin, followed by Stefan Streck.
Council, Mayor, Ms. Assistant City Manager. Yeah. That was a surprise. I'm Wayne Martin from Ward 4. Just a thought. It's a really beautiful evening, and I'm really glad to be in session with you. At your last meeting before your break, this is, you no doubt need and deserve some time to regain your energy and your capacities. I know how hard you work. I'm here tonight to give an updated report on Nightingale Health Sanctuary. I'm a founding board member. Since our opening on county property in December of 2014, we have had a total of 134 different persons stay for a period of at least 2 weeks, and others who didn't even stay that long. The average stay has been about 4 weeks, but it ranges up to 6 months. We moved once in 2015, twice in 2016, and once again in 2017. In the past year, we have gone from a rest stop of 30 to a rest stop restricted to 15 last summer, and now, since April, to a community of only 6 designated, we think, as a car camping status. It has not been sufficiently clear to us in our new location at the city-owned parking lot of Good Samaritan Assisted Living whether we are a rest stop of 6 or a part of St. Vinny's car camping program. It's unclear. In May, after an arduous move from the mission, Michael Kerrigan and I were called to meet with Reagan Watchus, our much appreciated point person under the city manager. We were one of 2 rest stops asked to the meeting to apply for a share in the $25,000 allocation approved last year. Ms. Watchus guided us through the details of the very complex process. In all, our board spent over 30 person hours drafting, redrafting, and finally finalizing the request for funding. 2 weeks ago, we received a response from the city office adjudicating the award. The letter granted us a total of $2,750, or 11% of the total grant. In the letter, it was stated the funds, 11% of the grant, would not be released, any of it, until we held the standing of a rest stop, which we had been invited to attend a meeting as a rest stop. Do you understand the trouble here in this situation? We at Nightingale have been compliant with whatever the city, the council has asked of us. When you reduced our capacity to 6 units, you implied you're going to be a smaller rest stop. Then you wrote us asking to apply for rest stop funds. Let me just finish 2 more sentences. We put hours doing so. Your response was that we'll give you $2,750, but you can't do it until you're really a rest stop.
Thank you.
Think this through and help us and talk it over.
And you can submit that in writing as well, Wayne, for us. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you very much. Okay, finally, Stefan Streck.
Good day, everybody. My name is Stefan Streck, and I represent the Commission to Make Eugene Great Again. I live down in South Eugene. It is a glorious part of town, and I recommend everybody to support our local businesses. First off, forgive me if I'm pronouncing this wrong, but I would like to welcome Councilor Yeah. Awesome. Great name. I love that. It is awesome to see more young women in politics, and I support that 110%. Welcome once again. All right. So I'd like to back up James as a fellow citizen that the Jim Crow bike laws that we have established to prevent people from riding their bikes on the sidewalk downtown away from traffic are unfair, they're wrong, and it's a throwback to the old times of segregation and racism. We need to put a stop to this. What's going to happen when there's your average black man, you know, trying to ride his bike on the sidewalk, smoking a cigarette with his dog on a leash? Are we going to have Rodney King 2.0? For God, I hope not. And we need to reverse these laws, which are unfair and wrong, before something like that happens. Because it doesn't take, you know, a racist police officer. It just takes 2 people that are both having a bad day. Now, our police do a great, great job. I've been stopped by them sometimes like 10 times this past year. I don't know. They have a lot to watch out for, and there is a lot going on, and it's easy for them to make simple mistakes. But so far as this council goes, with the aside from Councilor, I am a little disappointed in all of you for what happened the last time I was here, when I saw two harebrains from eWeb walk up and get $80 million faster than your average person orders a chicken sandwich. They don't need $80 million. I've got my Northwest Natural bill here. You know, with Northwest Natural, you get billed for the gas you use. You just use the gas, you get charged for it. Now with eWeb, there's all these crazy fees. There's like delivery fees for electricity, delivery fees for water. There's no little electricity boy running around with buckets of electricity, you know, showing up to everyone's house. There's no little water boy running around with buckets of water showing up to everyone's house. People should just be charged for the electricity they use. This infrastructure has been established for like 50, 60 years. Why are we taxing people with these extra ridiculous fees? Like, I use $10 worth of water. I get billed $30 for that? It's ridiculous. So $80 million for eWeb. It looks like we've got $50 million that's going for the roads that people are going to ask for. And of course it's going to get approved, I'm sure. You know, it's not, people ask for money, they just get it if they got some little badge. So that's like $130 million for nothing. What we really could use is a shelter for women that's also an animal clinic. You know, someplace where women can go, where people can take their animals to be taken care of. Women who need help can also take care of animals. It'll be very self-sufficient and cost-effective. We could do it pretty cheap, and it would help everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And that ends the public comment period of the forum. I don't think I have to gavel that. So are there comments? Councilor Syrett? Anyone else in the queue? Councilor Zelenka? Okay, take it away. Councilor Syrett.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone, for coming to speak. I have not yet put in the work session poll for the U.S. Bank question, but I will. Don't worry. And I know you'll keep me accountable if for some reason I don't get to it soon enough. I want to acknowledge the really good work of our staff around creating a brochure around the Rest Stop program and starting to do public outreach around the program. I am very disappointed in the story we heard from Reverend Wayne Martin. I do remember when we discussed the $25,000, which is a teeny tiny amount of money for relative to the need. I asked very specifically that the process for applying for those funds be relatively easy. Now, I've worked for nonprofits. I've applied for grants. I understand as a city we have to do due diligence in terms of that process, but I would like to ask us to take a look again at the process and see if there's a way to simplify it. It's also beyond Kafka irony to reduce them from a rest stop to a car camping, invite them to apply, do all that work, and then tell them, oh, but you're not a rest stop. So that I know no one meant to do that. That was not an intentional act, but we really need to think about this because particularly the nonprofits who have taken ownership of our of our rest stop programs work on a incredibly thin margin and mostly through volunteer work, and we really, really need to take that into consideration as we go out there and ask them to do more, even if we're offering money to help them do more. So of all the things we heard tonight, that was definitely the most concerning to me, and I hope that we will take very seriously the position that we put these two, because there's also community supported shelters, both of these nonprofits in by putting them in this bind, asking them to do this extra work, and then telling them, oops, but you can't get the money yet. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Zelenka.
I'll ditto what Claire just said. I did put in an affordable housing strategy work session poll. It's in. It was at council places today. Please vote for it. The first 7 to respond get a work session and a set of knives. Also the CRO Mayor's Ad Hoc Committee is meeting this Wednesday, 7/26 at 5:30 in the Atrium Building, and the topic is the update of the Climate and Energy Action Plan, which is a very important topic, so I encourage you to go to that meeting as well.
Great. Councilor Semple?
Thank you. Just briefly, I really appreciate everyone coming out. I always think these public forums are essential. I will miss you. Thank you for the good wishes for the break. I wish you good wishes for your break from us. And I look forward to seeing you Monday, September 11th, when we're all back here. Thanks.
Any other councilor comments? Councilor Clark?
I'll probably step in this. I don't care. Thank you to everyone who came and spoke. Appreciate it. I'd take you up on the offer with the car there, but I don't know. I'm thinking about buying one myself, so I don't know. Either way, I bet, I may be out of line. I'm probably wrong, but I'd bet money I got the lowest carbon footprint at this table, and I'll be willing to back that up. It may be close in a couple instances, but I'd be willing to take that bet. Anybody wants to take me up on it?
She doesn't. You lose.
That's good.
Stefan, I love it when you come to talk sometimes because, it's entertaining for me at times. I tell you, I don't know whether you're trying to be funny or not, some of the time. I think maybe you are. I just want to say, I don't think jokes about race are funny. Okay? It's just me. So, thanks for coming.
All right, any other comments? Thank you. I also want to thank all of you for coming, and I want to thank the work on musicians' emergency medical assistance. I think that's a terrific program, and thank you for sharing that with us and for the public that's listening. Thank you for all the climate work, and Wayne, that is the most disturbing story, so yes, we're eager to do better, and thank you for alerting us to that. So I think with that, we are really done with the public forum, and we will move on to our first item of business, which is the consent calendar. And I just want to say that I'm going to pull 2D off the calendar, and then we can talk about it afterwards. Any other adjustments to the consent calendar? Okay.
I move to approve the items on the consent calendar as amended.
Second? Do you have a second?
Second, sorry.
Thank you.
I was reading what 2D was, sorry.
El Rapa.
El Rapa.
Yeah.
All in favor of the consent calendar? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, great. That passes. And then I will just explain my reasoning for pulling the El Rapa off, which really has to do with a certain amount of confusion about addressing the fact that El Rapa missed their moment to go through the process with the other boards and commissions. And so we have an ongoing chairwoman of El Rapa, Janine Parisi, who needs to be renewed, but a request from council for an opportunity to go through a sort of a public outreach to fill the remaining seat on El Rapa. So I'm going to suggest that we just have one motion today on the chair, on Janine Parisi, to continue, and that we'll do outreach, and in September we can vote on a replacement for that seat. So if I could, to reappoint Janine Parisi, I think it's written here.
Move to reappoint Janine Parisi to the El Rapa board.
Second.
All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Did I get you?
Yeah, finally.
Is that right? Okay. That's handy for me. I can just overlook and count you as yes. Good idea.
Easy with the straight line, Mayor. I may respond.
Okay. Now we're on to item 3, which is the West Eugene Enterprise Zone Task Force public benefit criteria.
Great. I'll just give a brief blurb while Amanda gets prepared. This is really for you to finalize the updates to the West Eugene Enterprise Zone public benefit criteria. As you know, the Enterprise Zone is a state program that was designed to encourage job creation and local investment by offering short-term property tax exemptions to businesses making local investments and growing their workforce. The public benefit criteria encourages business practices that align with broader community goals and serve as an important value statement for the city. When considering redesignation of the Enterprise Zone in 2016, City Council directed staff to convene a task force to review and update the program's public benefit criteria. Amanda is going to provide an overview of that and where we've kind of landed, and we can take it from there.
So to refresh your memory, this criteria is allowed by state law, and it encourages business practices that align with broader community goals. Businesses that do not meet enough criteria may be required to pay back up to 25% of their tax exemption. The criteria also includes a job cap, which limits the tax exemption a business can get depending on the number of jobs they create. The task force was made up of 4 community members, 2 county commissioners, and then councilors Polling and Pryor. They met 3 times last fall to discuss updates to the criteria. Council discussed their initial recommendations in January and provided feedback on the draft criteria. And council also held a public hearing in February, and no public comments were provided. The task force met one final time in April to discuss council's January comments and have made the following changes, which are outlined in attachment B. This includes strengthening the consultation criteria language, including a reference to the city's climate recovery ordinance and action plan, adding criteria that gives points to minority-owned, women-owned, and disadvantaged business enterprises, adding extra points for businesses offering higher wages than the basic thresholds that have been included, and renaming 2 of the categories, including changing a small business to business type so that we can incorporate the minority, women, disadvantaged business criteria, and changing green building to sustainability as it better captures the new criteria. In addition to these changes, the task force discussed healthcare criteria given the uncertainty of the federal healthcare landscape. They chose to leave the criteria as is, which takes into account that businesses with over 50 employees are required to provide health care. Should there be significant changes at the federal level, either the city manager or city council can initiate a review of this category as needed.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion. We'll have a motion second, and then we can discuss.
Move to adopt Council Bill 5165, an ordinance amending the West Eugene Enterprise Zone public benefit criteria and scoring system.
Second.
Okay, discussion. Councilor Zelenka.
In front of you are several motions of points that are problems that I brought up in the January 23rd work session, and I'd like to talk about them in general and then come back to them one at a time. The goal of the enterprise zone for me is, and before voting on criteria for giving tax exemptions, there needs to be quantifiable real public benefits beyond just the jobs for me. And my concern is that it'd be way too easy to get the points and get the tax exemption without demonstrating real quantifiable public benefits in this case. And so the first motion that I had, it speaks to the wages, and the goal of the enterprise zone should be to create family wage jobs for all of the new employees, and instead of just potentially just some or even none of the employees, having the median wage be specified in the level criteria for all the company's employee means that half the employees will be above that and half will be below that. So and potentially none of the new employees could be above the median wage specified in the ordinance. So I think we should have the language should say that the median, that the wage for all new employees is the median wage. Second one is under the proposed scoring system, a business can score enough points, 25, to get the property tax exemption without any zero Tier 2 criteria points. Tier 2 criteria are then somewhat kind of meaningless list of if you can get a tax exemption without getting any points from these categories. Sustainability, redevelopment, health insurance we were just talking about, training and advancement, investment size. We should really make clear Tier 2 criteria a real and required part of the scoring to obtain the tax exemption. So I think that the Tier 2 criteria should at least account for a quarter of the overall points, or about 6 as a minimum. The third criteria relates to the word consultation. In all of the language on all the criteria, they're required to take action or have a plan in place or have this policy or be certified, except for 2 places. One is related to local hiring and sourcing, and one's related to criteria 5, the sustainability. In both cases, it's just mere consultation rather than any action is required, meaning you can get the points if you just show up and hear what they have to say. And I think that those 2 things should be changed as well, that they should be in line with all of the other criteria, in that they are that to get the points for that one, not just merely showing up, but actually creating a policy or program for contracting with more women, minority and women business enterprises, and two, that they actually have a plan to either reduce their impact on the transportation system or a plan to reduce energy consumption, not just merely consultation. So those are my three. So I'll put the first one up as a motion. I move to amend criteria 2 in Exhibit A by revising the phrase, this is in front of you, by the way, the median wage for all employees to read the median wage for all, should be all new employees in each of the 4 places where the phrase is found.
Second.
All right. Discussion? Councillor Surratt, Councillor Clark. Oh, yes, sorry. I had Councillor Clark first and then Councillor Surratt. Go for it.
Thank you, Mayor, very much. If I could have yours and maybe Denny's analysis just off the top of your head of what will you think would be the impacts, the result of the passage of Councillor Zelenka's amendment?
Yeah. So I guess it's hard to know. These are all very small businesses that we are working with. 16 of the 24 businesses that have gotten the exemption have started out with less than 25 employees, and so I guess the concern that I would have is if they would even have, if they're hiring 10 people and even one is below the threshold, even if they had wages at 80,000 and they had one at 30, they wouldn't qualify for those points.
So in other words, it's a way that would substantially de-incentivize hiring those new people because if one of them was below that threshold, then they wouldn't get the tax credit and thus maybe not do the hiring.
Well, I'm not sure if it would de-incentivize them, but it would put certain businesses at a disadvantage. And as a reminder, this criteria, these are for businesses that are already going to get 75% of the exemption regardless. And so it's just that last 25% that we're talking about.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Surratt?
Yeah, it sounded when Councillor Zelenka presented his motion that the phrasing in front of us might not be exactly what your motion was.
Right. It should say
the median wage for all new employees.
The wage for all new employees is, and there's different categories, for instance,
is 85% or greater than the median wage for traded sectors.
Right. For that one, but there's 4 different categories.
All the employees.
Yeah. The way that this works right now is that you take all the employees. If they have 50 employees, then you take the median wage. The middle one needs to be at the 85% of the median wage for the traded sector. Half are below that, half are above that. What this change would do is to say that all of the new employees you're adding, if you're adding 10, they all need to be at or above the 85% of the median wage in that category. And that's just for the 25 to get the extra 25%. You're still going to get the 75%. It's just to get that extra credit points.
Okay, I didn't have a question about that. I have mixed feelings about this, partly for the reason that staff just shared, that it will reduce the number of companies that even think to go for the extra 25%, which maybe that's all right. I think the original intent of this particular category of criteria was to ensure not necessarily that the new employees made that percentage of the median wage, but that the company itself was paying better than average wages in our community. And this was a way to recognize the value of that for our greater economy in granting a tax exemption. So while I did second the motion, I'm not convinced I'm going to vote for it, but I wanted to discuss it. I think it's hard for us to calculate the impact, but if we did pass this, then folks who wanted to get that extra 25% might calculate that bumping that wage up by another $1 an hour is worth it to get the tax exemption. So that's kind of what I'm thinking through as we sit here at the table and consider this. So those are my comments for now. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilor Pryor?
Yeah, it was very important that wages be a central part of giving somebody this benefit. I mean, the enterprise zone, the whole idea was to increase jobs and to increase good pay for jobs. And so there was a lot of conversation around this, but what we were trying to balance was making sure that there were jobs and that there were good paying jobs with what's going on in the real world. What does a real world job pay? And the median wage right now, if you look at what's here, at $18.11 an hour, that's $37,600 a year. So that what you're saying is, if you want the tax exemption, every new employee you hire has to be hired at least $37,600. Now, if you're a large company, maybe it's not that much of a problem, but most of these tax exemptions are given to small companies. Fewer than 10 employees, only a few, which means you're not talking 85%, that's $32,000 a year, which means you're saying if you want the tax exemption, your 5-person business, any new people you hire, cannot be paid less than $32,000 a year. You may have somebody already there who's earning less than that, and you may need somebody to basically punch holes in paper, and you have to pay them $32,000 a year. I think being able to have the flexibility still gets to what we want, which is not to just pay minimum wage. The whole reason we went to median wage was not to say, bring in a whole bunch of people at minimum wage and make out like a bandit. That's not the goal. We want to try to elevate salaries, but I don't want to elevate salaries so dramatically that no one can take advantage of the enterprise zone, and it stifles small business, which is what the bulk of these are. So I understand the desirability of this, and as a goal, I think it's a place we want to try to work towards. But I think putting it in now at this point in the process, I don't think would be as flexible or as wise. So I'll probably vote no on it, but I like the fact that we're trying to get there and that we made significant changes to this section in order to boost the potential for salaries and to get away from the kind of thing that I know that Councilor Taylor was worried about, which is this just allows you to hire a bunch of minimum wage employees. I don't think that was our goal. I don't think that's what we wanted. And I think this moves in that direction, but doesn't create a burden for a small business of having to pay every new employee at least $32,000 a year if they're small, or $37,000 a year if they're larger. And I'm less concerned about the larger companies than I am about these small businesses, which is what the vast majority of these enterprise zone awards have been for.
Any other round one? Any other round one comments? Okay, round two, we have Councilor Clark and then Councilor Zelenka.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be voting against this as well because I served a number of years ago on the Regional Economic Development Task Force joint whatever, I forget all the names that were the mayor and I served on that. I think there's one other councilor did. I can't remember which one was. But anyway, the two chief goals that came out of that are similar to ones that the city manager adopted whenever a number of years ago we were talking about economic development much more frequently. And they were to decrease unemployment and to increase median wage. Those are the two big economic goals that we had set. The challenge with this particular amendment for me is that it takes away the likelihood that this incentive will be used. And as Chris pointed out, and Claire to some degree with this as well, that's the whole point of trying to get the median wage to be above what is offered with an incentive that gets people there, because that has the effect over time. The more people that qualify for this incentive, it increases our area's median wage. And so to make it so restrictive that no one uses it is to actually work in the opposite direction. So that concerns me.
Councilor Zelenka.
So this doesn't do that. What it does is the first 75 and maybe Amanda, you can speak to this better than I can, explain how the public benefits 25% works and how the 75% works. So people will get the 75%. What we're talking about is, should we give them the extra bonus of the 25% in order to meet that? I think that threshold should be higher. And I'll have you explain that in a minute, but and attachment C is the original criteria from 2005. And if you read that criteria, we didn't change this criteria at all. It's exactly the same. It's 100% of median wage and 85% of median wage for employees under 25. So there's no change in that. The thing we added on top of it was the second, you get more points if you go beyond that, but we also added the scoring system to it. So we didn't really change much about that. So if you could explain the public benefits 25% versus 75%, how that works.
Right. So if a business, they apply to the enterprise zone and they meet all the requirements and they do all the job hiring that they need to be eligible, they get the whole exemption. But the state law allows us to claw back a certain portion of that, and that's up to 33%. And so that's where the job cap comes in. And then the way this we've created the public benefit criteria, it's that final 25%. We created a scoring system that a business needs to meet a certain percentage of goals, community or public benefits, and we use the scoring system where we kind of have a fraction percentage. So for every point they don't meet, they have to pay back to the city 1% up to 25%.
Right. So this doesn't disincentivize groups from trying to get the tax exemption. They'll get it. It's whether or not we give them that extra 25% of the tax exemption, and I think that threshold should be higher than just the normal threshold that we have.
Any other comments from council? I'm struggling just understanding this a little bit and what it really means. And I think the piece that I'm struggling with is you have a company that has 10 employees and it's going to have 25. Some of those employees are already below this median rate. So if you establish that new employees have to get the median rate, then the new employees automatically are getting paid at a higher rate than the longer standing employees, unless the company has the capacity to lift everyone up. Have I got that right? Is that what that means?
To get that.
To get that extra 25%, they would have to be willing to lift all the employees up. If this.
No, just the new employees.
Just the new ones.
Just the new employees.
So the ongoing.
Yeah, but that's never going to work.
But so the ongoing employees could still be below that. So that's what troubles me about this proposal. Okay. All right. So are we ready to vote on this motion? Okay. All in favor of the motion? 1, 2, 3. Okay, opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, it goes down. All right, next one.
The next one is about the Tier 1, Tier 2 criteria. The Tier 1 criteria says that on page 1 there that business needs to score at least 15 points through criteria 1. I was doing the math. You can get 25 points without getting 0 points from all the criteria. Tier 2 criteria, 5 through 9. So that renders it kind of meaningless if you don't even have to pay attention to those things to me. So as we did with the first criteria, that 15 points need to come from there at least, I was suggesting that a quarter of the points of 25, 6, would need to come from Tier 2. So it would add, if you're looking at the top of the page 60, where it says points will be combined with Tier 1 points for total points, and where's language? And that businesses need to score at least 6 points from Tier 2 criteria. So the motion is, I move to replace the sentence at the top of page 4 of Exhibit A that currently reads, points will be combined with Tier 1 points for total points, period, with the following. Points will be combined with Tier 1 points for total points, comma, and businesses need to score at least 6 points from Tier 2 criteria.
Second.
Okay, discussion. Councilor Pryor?
Yeah, actually, I think this is not a bad idea. We talked about the importance of the first tier. In fact, we created a tier system in order to ensure that an applicant didn't, somehow manage to get 25 points without accommodating some extremely important ones like wages and benefits. But I think the conversation we didn't talk about, how do you acknowledge the other tier? So I think this is a nice way to say, no, you can't get by just ignoring the second tier. You need to also recognize what's in there as well. So I think a quarter of the points is reasonable, and I think if they have to get 15 out of tier 1, that still maintains the emphasis in tier 1 and how important wages and benefits are. But I don't think you want to just ignore tier 2. So I think letting them get 6 points out of that, I think, is reasonable.
Okay. Councillor Surratt, Councillor Clark.
Thank you.
Surratt.
Yeah, and actually I'll point out, even though under the ACA and our current health care regime, employers over 50 are required to provide health insurance. Employers less than 50 are not. And that criteria, which is an added points, ability to get points, is actually in the tier 2 section. So that does address some benefits directly. The other tier 2 criteria are not so directly addressing an employee's experience. They're more community-based. But that one is definitely directly affects actual employees. So I will support this amendment.
Okay. Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. Do you think that it will make it, actually, let me ask that differently. If we're making the criteria harder, it will obviously it will obviously make it harder for some to apply and receive the credit. So with this particular amendment, how much harder, in your opinion? What percentage would it disincentivize?
Right. I can't imagine there would be a business that would receive nothing in these points. I think
the tier 2 part.
The tier 2 points, yeah. I think it's worth considering something like some of them are geared more towards food businesses. So if you had a non-food small business, it might be difficult for them because they might not be offering health care. They can't qualify for love food, not waste kind of thing. So I think if council wants to pursue a minimum, I don't know if 6 points is the right threshold, maybe a smaller, but something that encouraged, and they're not going to be investing over $2.5 million. It's hard to kind of gauge where they would be getting points.
Is what you just said, is that non-food, if it were manufacturing of some other nature, for example, it would be much harder?
It could potentially be if it was a particularly small business.
Okay.
We've had a handful of businesses who start in with 6 employees.
I will say that, again, I'm not against the idea of very clear and effective public benefits for such an incentive, but I want to be really careful and really smart and well thought out about how we do this, and I don't know what the right number of points are, and I don't know which ones disincentivize more than the other with regard to these tier 2 criteria, and I don't want to inadvertently just pass something so that I'll sound like I'm being smart about it and that I care about the benefit piece when I don't really know the impact it will have on those local companies that we want to see grow. So if this piece was, I don't know, suspended or tabled until a future point when we had better information, I might vote in favor of it. But at the moment, I'm not sure I can.
Okay. Any other comments in the first round? Questions? Councillor Zelenka, then I have Councillor Clark. So
there are 25 possible points in tier 2. So getting to 6 shouldn't be that hard. Interestingly, there's also, you need 25 points to get the exemption. So, and like I said, all of them could come from the tier 1 criteria. And so the reason I chose 6 is because I originally thought of 10, but that seemed too high because of the same issue that Mike had, and 5 sounded too low. But a quarter of the points coming from more than half the criteria, criteria that we thought was important, seemed like a minimum threshold for me. So whichever number you chose, it would be somewhat arbitrary, but I think 25% or a quarter of the overall points coming from the majority of the criteria sound like a good compromise.
Councilor Surratt?
Yeah, and I was thinking the same thing, that maybe 6 was too high for this section, but as I look, even if you exclude the redevelopment piece, which obviously not every company is going to be able to qualify under those points, or the investment size piece, there are still a number of ways to get to 6 without a great deal of expense or trying to put themselves, into a category that doesn't fit them. Participating in the Love Food Not Waste program, offering diversity training, having a comprehensive written policy around wage and position advancement, something most companies should be doing anyway. So I'm comfortable with the 6 points from tier 2, looking through and seeing that there are actually ways for a small company to achieve those points without having to fall into some outsized category that doesn't fit them.
Any other comments or questions about this? We are ready to vote on this second motion. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Opposed? 1. All right, it passes. Okay. All right, you have a third one.
Motion 3 and 4 are actually similar motions, but they refer to 2 different sections, so I made them separate. When we do all these criteria, they say on the first one, it is a minority-owned business. And then on the third criteria, has created a procurement plan, is utilizing the state-approved procurement policy, has a diversity equity plan, or is certified as a or is implementing a stormwater management, or participates in. And then on number 3 and number 5, there's 2 odd criteria, which I thought in the first one, the company, it's the third one down on number 3, local hiring and sourcing. The company has had a consultation with the City of Eugene's minority and women business enterprise contracting specialists to discuss how they can facilitate more contracting opportunities for MWBE businesses. All you need to do is show up. You don't have to do anything. And to me, I think that they need to actually do something like all the other criteria. So the amendment would be, I move to amend criteria 3 in Exhibit A by replacing the third subcriterion related to MWBE businesses with the following. After consultation with the City of Eugene's minority and women business enterprise contracting specialists, the business has created a policy or program for contracting with more MWBE businesses.
Second.
Okay, discussion, questions? Councilor Evans.
Yeah, this is one of the things that I talked about when we originally had this work session back in January, and creating a plan is not creating a 100-page document that is necessary to, satisfy some ethereal criteria that's out there. It can be as short as a half a page, but it does go to the point of having an effort to create a way for women and minority businesses, emerging businesses, to be able to, have an interface, with these companies that are getting these kinds of benefits. And so I think it's important. There may be some companies say, well, I'm just not going to deal with that criteria. I'll forego those points. I mean, there's 2 points here, right? So I don't think it's going to make a big difference or a big deal. Some people may say, yeah, I really want to do this. I want to go forward. I want those 2 points. And I want to be recognized as a company that is actually making an attempt to do the kind of work and work with uplifting our whole business community and not just some business parts of the business community. Because quite often what happens all across this community is the people who already get the work are continuing to do business with the same people that they've known, forever. And I think it's important for there to be some way, different ways for businesses who have traditionally been shut out to be able to be included in at least some consideration. Okay? And I thank Councilor Zelenka for putting this motion forward.
Any other comments? Oh, Councilor Clark.
Thank you. The wording of this was interesting to me. Could you read the last part of the motion one more time?
Yeah, in front of you, but
I don't. I couldn't figure out where it was here with this.
It's this one.
so motion to amend number 3. After consultation with the City of Eugene's Minority and Women Business Enterprise Contracting Specialist, the business has created a policy or program for contracting with more MWBE businesses.
My question is: Are you tying the tax break to an agreement to hire differently, or is this an education piece about the wisdom of doing so and how they might create a better program for doing so?
I think Greg can speak this better than I, but the point of it is that to create a policy and a program to enable them to be able to do that.
Because
without that, they don't have the.
Yeah, if this is, let's create a plan and a pathway so we know what the steps are if this is our goal to do this, as opposed to we're committing to this and we're going to deliver X percent.
Yeah,
there's a different thing there for me.
It does not say thou shalt contract with.
It doesn't say shall, it says can, essentially. I'm in. That's fine.
We'll have to create a policy or program.
I can vote for
Councilor Evans, do you want to speak to
Yeah,
that?
I mean, nothing in this says anything about creating any kind of quotas or anything else. This is about creating a policy or a program that provides a pathway. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. You know, recognizing that there are other businesses and companies in the community that may want to do business with you or may want to, do that. It is a commitment to showing that you are wanting to be at least forward thinking in this area. No quotas for hiring and no quotas for contracting.
Okay, are we ready to vote on this motion? All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, that's great. That carries. And finally, your last one?
The last one is the same thing. It has the consultation thing in it, and it's related to criteria 5, the third sub-bullet. It gets rid of the consultation just merely showing up in hearing into actually doing one of the two things. So I move to amend criteria 5 in Exhibit A by replacing the third sub-criterion related to certain consultations with the city with the following. The businesses has one of the following. It's an either or. 1, after consultation with the city, a plan to reduce their impact on the transportation system, or 2, after consultation with the city's waste prevention green building department, a plan to reduce energy consumption.
Second.
Okay, discussion, questions, Councilor Syret?
So the question I would have is, what if a business like, for example, Hummingbird Wholesale, which was founded very much on the principles of sustainability and zero waste, and has just incorporated that into every single thing they do as a business. What if they already have a plan to reduce their impact, or they already are part of the green building prevention? Would they just automatically get the point because of that?
As completed.
Yeah, I would think
They
that
met the
they would
criteria?
show that to the city's waste prevention green building department, and that would be they'd say, we already have this, and they'd say, great.
Okay, so it's not saying they have to reduce their impact further from where they were at the time of their application.
Says that you need a
They've
plan.
already fulfilled the criteria.
It's kind of the same as the minority women business.
It doesn't hold you accountable for that.
Any other comments or questions around this one? Okay, ready for vote? All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Terrific. That's great. All right. Thank you very much. And now we're back.
Do we need to move as amended?
Yes.
Yes. So we're going back to the original motion as amended. So where is that? Okay. Green sheet.
I I move to adopt council
Excuse me,
bill.
you don't need to read it again. You already made the main motion, and you've just been amending that, so now you need to vote on the main motion as amended.
Okay, so we don't need to go through this process again. Okay, so,
Main motion is amended.
all right, so we are ready to vote on the amended motion.
Second, Glenn?
No.
No, it's already seconded. It's already seconded.
You made the original motion, and I believe Councilor Clark seconded the original motion.
So we're good to go. Okay, all in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Terrific. All right, thank you. That passes. Thank you very much. Okay, now we are on to action 4.
All right. So this item, do I need to read this whole thing out?
No.
Okay. This item is for you to place potentially a $51.2 million general obligation bond measure to fix streets on this November 2017's ballot. The resolution before you reflects direction given by council at the July 12th meeting after hearing recommendations from the Street Repair Review Panel and results of a community survey presented by Dr. Gary Manross. Sue Cutzer George is here, and I believe also Jennifer Willer. We have a team here to answer questions or help you with this if you need it.
Okay, so do we have any questions? Councilor Semple? Anybody else need a moment? Okay, Councilor Semple.
I have questions about the neutral information tabloid. Are we moving to do that? Are we voting to do that?
Not yet. The particular item you're on now is just whether to actually refer the street bond resolution to the November ballot. Once you take action on this, then you'll get to the question of neutral information.
Thank you.
Okay.
Madam Mayor,
Yeah,
point of order. Don't we have to have a motion on the table before we actually have a discussion? Or are we just going to have a discussion first?
I guess.
You can start with discussion. I believe what the mayor was asking was whether anybody had questions about the materials before she asked the council president to put the motion on the floor.
I got it.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, we'll put the motion on the table then.
It's a really long one. I move to adopt resolution number 5204, placing a GO bond measure on the November 2017 ballot.
Second.
All right, any discussion? Mike, Councilor Clark?
Yeah, City Attorney, if I wanted to, well, no, I'm going to say this first since we're going to start this discussion if nobody else wants to do it, so I urge my colleagues, I strongly urge my colleagues to consider this for the May ballot rather than the November one. I would absolutely be in favor of it for the May ballot, but not the November one. The sole reason, this is one of the most successful things we've done in the last few years. I mean, arguably the most successful thing we've done in the last few years is of a scale this size, to fix the roads as we have. And this has had overwhelming public support. I think we're reading the community wrong to think it will just be passed again as it has before. And I think it will be in May. It has a much better chance. As someone who's worked in an awful lot of elections, I have to tell you, that's an educated opinion, that it has a much better chance in May than it does in November. And I hope you'll consider that. I'll make the motion if I hear that there are others that would consider that.
Councilor Evans?
Yeah, I just have I don't want to do the crosstalk thing, but given Dr. Manross's report and recommendation to move forward with November instead of May of 18, wasn't that partly because of the fact that there could be other money measures on the May of 18 ballot? And by having this as kind of being the lone outlier, if you will, for the November 2017 ballot, gave it a better chance of passing than if we were mixed in with other measures on the May of 18 ballot. Am I correct that that was the recommendation?
I think there was an email that went out. Dr. Manross wanted to go back to his office and look at his research after your last meeting, and he sent an email afterwards saying he was looking at high propensity voters versus low propensity voters and whether that would make a difference May or November election, and he determined that based on his polling results, there wouldn't be a difference May versus November, high propensity versus low propensity voters.
But would that also, was that also calculating, because I saw it, I didn't read it fully, so was that also calculating the possibility of other money measures on that primary ballot in 18?
So he wasn't calculating that in his, he was just using the research that he did. However, I did reach out to Lane County, 4J, and LCC, and none of them are expecting to place a money measure, at least right now, place a money measure on either one of those two ballots. So we don't think there will be any competition.
There wouldn't be any conflict for May.
Right.
I do have a question, though, about the city's own schedule for ballots, and I wonder if staff could address that, what that timeline is, because we also have a Parks and Rec bill coming up.
Well, I think initially in prior work sessions, we've talked about the possibility of if the road measure was this fall, that there was a possibility of a parks bond measure next spring. You haven't made any decisions about that. You're going to get an update on the system plan on Wednesday. One of the things that we'll be recommending out of that is that you create the subcommittee of counselors that really take a deeper look at the park security issue, because we're hearing that is a significant issue as we look towards making new investments in parks and taking care of the ones that we have already. So internally, I think the bigger issue for us is really around the timing and certainty of knowing whether those funds are going to be available in terms of how engineering approaches the design, the scoping of the projects. They've kind of laid this out in a way that if we know in November it's either an up or a down, then we stage and we don't miss any construction seasons or bidding or designs, because we're planning those increments to come in a really predictable way. If we don't know or it fails, it just gives us less time to kind of transition to a different process. So I think internally it's better, but it's really your call.
I do want to offer one other thing, though. 4J is proposing to do a ballot in November 18. So if we bump this one back to May and we bump our parks to November, we'll bump up against the 4J bond. So it is important to remember that schedule. Any other questions, comments? Okay, are you gonna, all right, are we ready to vote on this motion as written? Are you gonna offer a?
I was waiting. Thank you, Mayor, for asking. Mm-hmm. I appreciate that very much. I would move. I don't think it'll pass now, just from my sense of the room, but I'll make it anyway, because I want to be clear that I'm in favor of doing this. I'm in favor of us fixing the roads this way, but I strongly believe that if we put this on in November, we risk it's not passing. And if we put it on in May, I believe it has a much better chance of passing, so that we can continue the good work. So with that said, I would move to postpone the consideration of this until May.
Do we have a second? Okay.
Thank you.
There we go. All right. So all in favor of the original motion? All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, it passes. That's great. And opposed? 1. Got it. Thank you very much. Okay, now we're on to the motions relating to the November election. I hope you're
right. So this item is to solicit your direction on several items related to the November election. You're being asked to consider and authorize the production and distribution of a voter's pamphlet, a neutral information tabloid, and to identify up to 3 counselors to serve on the voter's pamphlet proponent committee for both the charter amendment related to filling a vacancy on the city council and the road bond measure. In addition, we're looking for budget approval to pay for the city share of election costs. So I think it's referenced in the material, there's a proponent committee for both. And then there's cost potentially of putting together the tabloid. and also separate costs to the election. And Beth's here, and she can jump in on any of this. I'll share my microphone.
Okay, so I think the first thing is before we vote,
There's 5 motions.
there's 5 motions. So, okay, we can vote to publish it, and then we would, yes, okay, so we'll do the first one first.
Questions.
So, you want to read the motion?
Or you want to do questions first?
Are there any questions that we want to cover before we? No, okay, go for it.
I move to direct the city manager to publish and distribute a local voters pamphlet for the special election scheduled for November 7th, 2017, on a ballot measure amending the Eugene charter related to elections to fill vacant mayor or council positions and on a bond measure for street preservation projects.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, great. That passes. All right, now, the next round, we need volunteers. And I don't know what this involves, and we have a couple new counselors as well, so maybe you could clarify what they're volunteering for if they step up.
Non-advocacy.
Jennifer.
I don't know.
Oh, you want to speak?
I've just done it.
Okay, Claire's just done it. Should we give Claire a moment and then you can add more? Okay, go for it.
Just do it, but I can't remember what the topic was now, but Councilor Evans and Polling and I did the ballot measure statement. And again, I'm blanking out on what the topic was, which is embarrassing. But in any case, we got together, we discussed what council had said about the measure, and I volunteered to do a draft, which of course the two of them were perfectly happy to have me do. I shared the draft. They gave me some feedback, which was good job, and we submitted it to the mayor. So it's not a ton of work. I mean, you could make it a ton of work if you really wanted to, but it does not really require, I think, for proper due diligence, more than 1 or 2 actual meetings in person and then some email discussion. And for the record, I would be willing to volunteer for the bond measure street preservation committee, if that's helpful.
Okay, that is helpful. I'm just putting your name in there. Okay, so I need. Beth, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, I will be working closely with the committee just as far as logistics, the due dates and the word counts and all that information.
All right. Councilor Zelenka, question?
So this is why we are putting this on the ballot, why we think you should vote for it, which brings up a bond measure, and staff can't advocate for it, but we need to have but staff can provide information to questions that we ask, correct? Mr. City Attorney.
Depending on the nature of the questions that you are asking, staff can certainly provide for both of these measures the materials that you have received or seen before. So, for example, the AISs explain a lot of the background that you can then use to pull information from. Depending on the nature of your questions, staff may be able to provide answers to that, but whatever kinds of questions you as the proponents committee would be asking, if staff answers those, staff would have to answer similar questions from the opponents committee. And so for those of you who don't know how this works, with this kind of measure, the council appoints a 3-member proponents committee. There is an opponents committee where people can volunteer, put their names in a hat. Beth draws names out of a hat. I think at times she's done that, literally drawn the names out of the hat to get 3 people. And then the proponents committee would write, I believe it's a 300-word explanation, reason why people should vote for it. The opponents committee gets to write a 300-word explanation as to why people should oppose it. The proponents committee gets to write is it 200?
It's less, yeah.
Less than 300 words, rebuttal to the opponent's position, and the opponents get to do the same. So it's 2 things that you're writing. One is 300 words. The second one is less than 300 words. And so, yes, we can provide some information. Just at this point, anything that we do for the proponents committee, we have to be able to do for the opponents committee.
Right, just explaining the charter amendment and why it's necessary and what's going on is going to be
Well, in two sources for that, there was at least one AIS. There may be two AISs. There was also at least one Register Guard article.
Yeah, Christian got it pretty good, I thought.
Okay, so I'm going to begin with the top one. We need 3 volunteers for the charter amendment. Oh, did you have a question, Chris? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to add, and Glenn explained it really well. I've been on about 3 of these, the auditor proponent committee and the street bond proponent committee and one other one. And in addition to writing the material in the voters pamphlet, if there is an independent advocacy group, a yes committee, the council members who are on the proponents committee generally coordinate with the folks on the yes committee, so that there might be a little bit of additional work there, but it'll primarily be to coordinate with them, because the staff, there's a lot of work they cannot do, particularly around yes, and so you need to work with the yes committee and then make sure that that's all coordinated. And as Dr. Manross said, in particular with regard to the street bond, it's going to need a lot of communication, so there will need to form a yes committee, which means it will become more important that the members from the council of the proponents committee coordinate with the yes committee to ensure that the maximum amount of communication information gets out. So it's preparing the information for the voters pamphlet, but there is a little bit of additional coordinating work that goes with it. I just to put that in as well. I would be more than happy to volunteer for the Charter Amendment Committee. I'm happy to serve on either committee, but I'll say for now I'll be on the Charter Amendment Committee and then see and fill in where you might have any holes.
Okay, so I need 2 more for each of them. Taking volunteers for the Charter Amendment Committee.
How many do we have to have?
We have to have 3. We have 3 slots.
You can have up to 3.
Up to 3.
Oh, we could have 2.
You need to have 1.
You have at least 1.
We've
Otherwise,
got
there
1 for
wouldn't be
each.
a statement from the proponents committee.
We've got 1 for each, but it seems
yeah.
that it would be
I would be
an act of
happy to do
kindness.
one and either.
Okay, you're in the first one.
Okay, you're on the first one because we have to finish that one. Okay. All right, you're on the first one. Can I have one more person to go for the second one? Some volunteer wants to write about roads, road bonds?
No, this one's about charter.
I'll do it.
Chris will do it?
Greg will do it.
Greg will do it? Okay, okay.
I'll do the second one.
Okay, and Alan will do the second one. So we could take 1 more on the charter, but 2 could probably do it. It's a lot of written out. Okay. Good enough? All right, so we have Pryor. You got this?
Yeah. I move to appoint Councilors Pryor and Ye to the voters pamphlet proponent committee for charter amendment related to elections to fill mayor councilor vacancies.
Second.
All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, congratulations.
I move to appoint Councilors Syret, Evans, and Zelinka to voters pamphlet proponent committee for the bond measure for street preservation projects.
Second.
All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Terrific. Thank you. Congratulations. And now we are on to the tabloid question.
I'm against them.
I move to direct city manager to prepare a neutral information tabloid concerning both measures.
Second?
Second.
Discussion. Councilor Semple?
Thank you. I have a really, really big problem with this because for the library levy, it was a 4-color, big brochure. It did not seem neutral at all to me. It showed many, many reasons why you should vote for the library levy. And I sent out a bunch of emails to find out how much it cost. And yep, it cost $25,000, part of which is my property tax, to try to convince everybody else to get me to pay more property tax. And I know this is a bond. So again, we're asking to use property tax money to convince people to make me pay more property tax. And I just found it incredibly upsetting. So I'm interested in hearing what other people's reactions are to this, because it was part of the reason why I didn't vote for it. I felt totally manipulated by my own tax money.
Councilor Pryor and then Councilor Taylor.
Yeah, I think that's a fair question, and I think what I would ask is there are state regulations with regard to what constitutes neutral. and they're very specific state regulations with regard to what constitutes neutral. Was there any complaint or filing, or were we found in violation of state regulations or statutes with regard to neutrality on that particular piece?
We were not found in violation. I do not recall any complaint that went to the Secretary of State's office, and I believe that may have been one of them. The Secretary of State's office, Elections Law Division, offers a service where they will review draft neutral statements, and every once in a while we will send the draft neutral statement up to the state Elections Law Division and say, hey, would you review this? I believe the library, I'm not positive, but I believe the library was one of them where we did that. But whether we do that or not, we do review it to make sure, whatever staff comes up with, to make sure that it is consistent with the state elections law requirements. Now, that's not to take away from what Councilor Semple says, which is that some people will still view that as being biased, but in terms of the state requirements, we do review those before they're published, and in some cases we have asked the Secretary of State's office to actually review it before we give the sign-off to staff to publish it.
I would just want to make sure that we were absolutely conforming to all state requirements with regard to neutrality. I would not want to be in violation of any state regulation or law with regard to neutrality, both in printed material and in staff conduct. And my sense is that doesn't happen. But to the point, if it's expensive, a lot of, I like to use the word municipally modest in terms of referring to how things should be produced so they don't look like you're wasting taxpayer dollars. In the many years I spent in public service, I was constantly being confronted with the notion of what is municipally modest and what looks like an extravagant expenditure of public money. We want to make sure we keep that in mind. But the more important point is to ensure that everything that we do conforms to state requirements. Is if we want to have it reviewed, that's probably not a bad idea, but that at least your office, which has got decades of experience in this area, is also scrutinizing everything very carefully to make sure that it's not legally violating it. I agree, people are going to look at anything and have a different impression of it, but I just want to make sure we're conforming to the legal requirements, so that's important for me as well.
Well, and we'll certainly review it, but I also have no problem, since the issue's been raised, that should you decide to pass this motion, I'll just commit to you right now that we will have this one reviewed by the Secretary of State's office. It doesn't cost anything. It's pretty quick. They provide that service.
Super. Thank you.
Okay, I have 4 in the queue, but Manager, you want to speak to this?
Yeah, I was just going to make a comment about recognizing the importance to be municipally modest, but I did also hear Dr. Manross say really clearly that people need to understand what it is they're voting on. So I hope that we can find if this passes, we want to find that sweet spot where it doesn't feel like you're selling or trying to do something that's not neutral, and that in fact it's a project list that really clearly helps the public understand what it is that's out there, because they don't have that understanding right now.
Okay, I have Councilor Taylor.
Thank you. I don't understand why we need a tabloid in addition to the voters pamphlet. I think people who want to know what it's all about read the voters pamphlet carefully. And if we do a good job with that, that should be sufficient. If someone wants to tell me why we need a tabloid.
Well, I think, my own most personal experience is not that recent, but the Parks tabloid that we sent out that had it just had a map of Eugene. It showed where all the neighborhoods were, all the wards. People understood the investments were going to be made in their neighborhoods in very specific places. It explained what the projects were, and people could say, yes, I can support that. It's hard to put all of that in the voters pamphlet. But it's really your decision about how much engagement you want to do with the public around something you're asking them to fund.
My feeling is on the roads, we don't need to. We've done 2 of these and people are very much satisfied. I see it as being a different matter, different kind of thing.
Councilor Syrett?
Thank you. Well, I appreciate Councilor Semple bringing this up. I don't specifically remember the materials for the library levy, but I can imagine that they said should this bond pass, it will mean X dollars to, buy new materials, to have more computer stations, whatever the particulars were. And I could see how that might be interpreted as advocating for passage when in fact it's factual information. I definitely was going to suggest that we get this statement reviewed by the Secretary of State's office, just because it's a good check and balance. And then I would also say that we should note on the materials that review took place. So you could be small print, but in there that the contents of these materials have been reviewed by the Secretary of State's office to ensure neutrality, so that we're really clear with folks that we've complied with the requirements on that. As far as Councilor Taylor's questioning of whether we need that material, I agree that thoughtful voters read the voters pamphlet, and that's why I volunteered to create a statement for it. But other people take information in other ways, and not everyone can sit with that voters pamphlet and read that text and get from it what it is we might want them to know about the details of the measure. So people learn in different ways. People absorb information in different ways. And so I think having something that's a little more accessible other than the voters pamphlet is important in helping people determine which way they want to vote on a measure.
Hey, Councilor Zelenka.
Yeah, again, this tabloid would have both of the measures on it. I think it's real important to explain the first one and the second one. I agree that if it should be reviewed by Secretary of State for it not to be advocacy but to be neutral. I'm not a marketing expert by any means, but I do know that if you're going to send something out and people are going to read it, it has to be color, it has to be easy to read, and it has to be graphical. So that's not cheap to put together. I also underscore the fact that Dr. Manrow said that information in this on the Broad Bond is really key. Having a street list, having a map that shows it's equitable all over the city and where it is and where you live and how it's going to impact you, that there's an independent auditor that's going to look at this, that there's a citizen review committee, and that the streets will deteriorate if this doesn't get passed. That's just a fact. Then that type of information is the type of information that would go into this tabloid, neutral tabloid. And I don't believe the voters pamphlet is as widely read as maybe some people think it is, and I don't think that would be sufficient. And it's not the right format for conveying this type of information. If you don't have a map in there, this map right here is not going to fit in the voters pamphlet, and it's very important that people see this so they can see that it's spread out all over the city and that it's equitable.
Councilor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. While I agree that it's probably a good idea to have Secretary of State's office review for neutrality and advocacy, and even if you put that on the document, it still wouldn't change Councilor Simple's reaction amongst the general public. It'd be exactly the same. And that's where the danger is. It's that response. And I believe that Dr. Manross was talking to us more about the need to inform and to advocate. And I think that has to be done by an outside committee. I think the more that the city does that can even questionably look like advocacy does more to drive away the vote. And so I'm not going to support this because I think it will increase the likelihood of it not passing.
Councilor Semple, you want another round?
Yes, please. Thank you. I would imagine that it's reviewed for the word content. And being a graphic designer, I know that there's a lot more messaging than just the words. The tabloid last time was 4-sided. I have a copy upstairs. It's very repetitive, very large words. It is understandable. And I really thought it came from another organization. It was just so pro-library. And that's not something that you can get an attorney to sign off on, graphic design. But I really thought it came from somebody else. And when I found out that the city paid for it, and this was way back before I thought I might be on council, I was sending out emails and making phone calls to find out how much it cost. So I'm in favor of the road bond. I want it to pass. So it's sort of hard for me to argue against something that I really want. And I do want the information to be very simple so that people can understand it, because a lot of people don't read the voters pamphlet. And, it would be great if some other people wanted to advocate for it, but I'm really concerned about spending property tax money to get people to spend more property tax money, even though I personally want them to. I'm also really opposed to putting both on the same tabloid because they're so very different. I'm not really quite sure how you're going to graphically get all that to flow together. So, I want the information out there, but I don't want to pay for it.
Can we just get...
And I really feel I was really upset. I really felt that the city was manipulating me and using my money into that $25,000 pot to get everybody else to vote for me to put some more money into that pot. And that just feels wrong. So I'm not going to vote for this.
So just a little clarity around this. We have two pieces. We could have a tabloid for one or the other or both, and there or none or neither. And would be a cost. We have a cost estimate on. Was that in this? It was $20,000, $25,000. That's for one. No matter what the information it contains. So if we were going to do two, presumably we'd be looking at $50,000 or something.
The majority of the cost for both the voters pamphlet and the tabloids is in postage.
Yeah.
Oh.
Doing two, it wouldn't be double probably, but it would be significant.
Right. Okay. Yes, Councilor Pryor. And
I agree. A yes committee, we need to have a yes committee, particularly around the transportation measure. But, to say, well, this is really important and we need to have it, but I'm nervous about communicating it beyond the voters pamphlet, is dooming it. That's back to, Dr. Manross said, you got to communicate about it, the complexity of it and the detail about it, or it's not going to pass. So yeah, we have to have a yes committee, and the yes committee can do the advocating, but the city still has to produce neutral, and I'm emphasizing the word neutral, to a reasonable person is neutral, information that includes the maps and the lists of, a person says, would you vote for this? Well, it depends. What's in it? That's more than what the voters pamphlet can give you. In order what's in it, I need to have the map. I need to know the names of the streets and the amounts and things like that. That's communication. That's not biased, but it is communication, and it needs to be there needs to be some piece that does that. I'm also not convinced that it has to cost $25,000. Now, I think the postage is the postage. So whatever the postage is, plus a modest amount for something that still communicates this information but doesn't have to be super slick, is where I would be. So I absolutely think we have to do some sort of communication. Dr. Manross agrees we have to do some sort of communication, but it absolutely has to be neutral. And it's got to be, I still think it has to be municipally modest in some way. That doesn't mean it's ugly or not very attractive, but I think a big slick 4-color brochure is that maybe doesn't look right or maybe won't work right. A yes committee can take over a lot of that task as well. I think a yes committee will be important, but if we don't communicate at all, yeah, we're setting ourselves up to be defeated, whether it's November or May. Either one will be defeated if we don't communicate. So yeah, we have to communicate, but I hear the concern that whatever it is we do has to pass the reasonable person neutrality test. And I think that's what you're hearing loud and clear. It's really got to look, feel, taste, and smell neutral, but we do have to communicate.
Well, yes, and Alan has a comment, and then I have a comment, and do we have someone over here? No? Okay. All right, go for it.
Well, this has to be in color. you can't be black and white. You won't be able to see it. So it has to be color. And Emily, is it the source of the money, or is it just tax dollars? Because the next motion actually says that we take this money from the reserve for revenue shortfall, which isn't necessarily property tax money per se, but it's tax dollars.
It's all the budget.
Tax
It's
dollars.
one pot of money, and I put into that.
I just, I guess I'm just going to sort of sum up my reaction to some of this, which is we know in order for this to pass, we have to share information. We also know that when the city sends out very bland, small printed postcards, nobody reads them. And so we can't go that neutral, right? It has to be bold enough that people see it in the mail. And so just a sort of caution when we're talking neutral, you can go too far and then no one looks at it at all and you've wasted money. So just a thought. Okay, so are we ready to vote on the tabloid question? All in favor of the motion to direct 1, 2, 3, what have I got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, opposed? 1, 2, 3. Okay, it passes. Okay. And then finally,
I move to direct the city manager to include on a supplemental budget sufficient appropriation offset by general fund contingency and the reserve for revenue shortfall to produce that voter's pamphlet, produce a neutral information tabloid, and pay for the city's share of the election costs.
Second.
any discussion of this?
My nose around the issue.
All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Opposed? 1, 2. Okay, it passes.
Tabloid.
Thank you. We are finished. Thank you very much.